Welcome to the Beyond Anxiety podcast, where we talk about dismantling mental health stigmas, mental health awareness through education, and strategies for overcoming mental health challenges. I'm your host, Darius Fennell, and I'm a mental health and therapy advocate, published author, speaker, and coach. I'm so glad you've decided to tune in and listen, and I'm so excited to get into this next episode. Welcome, and please like, subscribe, follow, comment, and enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Beyond Anxiety podcast. I'm your host, Darius Fennell, and I have a special guest here with me. Her name is Taiia Smart Young, and I've had the pleasure of knowing her for a few years now. She probably doesn't remember me from her email list, but even before meeting a mutual friend, I'd been a part of her journey, probably going back to, I want to say 2019.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep. So when I met you at the Publish and Pay Live experience, I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh, I remember her. Yes. We've been connected all this time and didn't know it. Like I would listen to your Instagram lives, and you had a newsletter and email and stuff that would go out, and I was reading all those things as I was starting my little book writing journey.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is about you. So just to go over some of her background, she is an author, speaker, coach, and editor, and I'd rather say senior editor, positions at major corporations such as Essence, among many others.
Mm.
Is the creator of Step Into Your Story, which is a book writing and publishing intensive. And if I understand correctly, you are a dynamic host who have interviewed the likes of Michelle Obama.
Yeah,
I'm nervous now. I should let you host it. You question me. I'm nervous now.
Not at all. This is your show.
All right. So as we are getting to the theme of mental health advocacy, which is the whole reason why I even started my entire journey in creating this podcast, tell us, first of all, a little bit about yourself, and then transition into your mental health journey in regards to just your life experiences. And mostly what I want to get into today is talking about therapy.
Sure. Well, if we go back, way back into time, since I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer. And so my dream job was to be at Essence magazine. And so I feel like I manifested it.
Wow.
But I also applied for an internship there, right? So
Still.
the internship was really important to me getting the job at Essence. And so was at the time, because this is back when magazines were hot, and the editor-in-chief of Essence, she came to speak at my college, and I was the very last question. And everybody had all these different questions. I wanted to know, how do I get an internship? And that is the question that I asked. And so that pretty much set, I feel like, the wheels in motion, because before the editor-in-chief, Susan Taylor, probably got on the plane. This is back in the day of faxing, not even really sending an email. She was like, fax me your resume, fax me a cover letter. And I did that. And I got an internship that summer. And I was just blessed to be able to, one, do good work when I was an intern there, and let someone know, like, they were like, what do you want to do when you graduate? And I was like, yeah, work here. And so it ended up being my first official media job out of college. And then I went to work at other magazines like Juicy. I co-founded Juicy with one of my friends, and I worked at Latina magazine. I worked at Double XL magazine. So I have a lot of like publishing experience. Also worked at a bunch of different websites as well, launched a bunch of different websites. So my background is in media. So I'm blessed to have said that this is what I wanted to do and be when I was a little kid. And I was blessed to study communications in college and then actually get a job in my major.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, where did you do your undergrad?
Sure. I went to Johnson C. Smith University, which is a small historically Black college in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes. Oh, yes. Aggie Pride over here. So, yep.
You went to A&T.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So, in terms of your earliest experiences with like mental health challenges, like for myself, I can go all the way back to my earliest memories. I've always been a chronic worrier, and I was given the nickname Doomsayer as a kid. because I would always think of like the worst case scenario, and I'd tell my family, what if this happens? And they're like, there he goes again, doomsayer.
Mhm.
2 years later, when I actually finally went to therapy and was officially diagnosed with various things,
Mhm.
share with me like your different life experiences in those areas, whether it's, I mean, I have to be anxiety like me, but just
Sure.
that among other things that, you're willing to share as far as your mental health journey.
Yeah, so when I was in college, I didn't know that they were called panic attacks,
Okay.
but I had severe panic attacks when I was in college. For me, it was around keeping my scholarship. I had a
Oh,
partial scholarship. I had to maintain a 3.5
mm,
to keep the scholarship.
know about that.
Right. It's like you have these expectations that are put on you. And so
Yeah.
around finals time, midterms time, I'm studying, and there would be certain times where I just couldn't deal with the pressure. And
Mhm.
so I would have what I now know is a panic attack. I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't tell anyone other than I think one of my friends saw me have one and just was like, wait, what's going on? And took me to the health center. And they pretty much like got me to calm down. But again, no one really knew. We weren't talking about mental health like
No.
the way we do now. Like in the 90s, we weren't
Right.
talking about
No.
mental health, right?
No.
Like we didn't necessarily have mental health advocates or therapists even on campus the
Yeah.
way they do now, right? There's a lot of emphasis on campuses about mental health because some students ends up committing suicide,
Yes.
right? On campus. And
Yeah.
so the fact that I now have language for that is important to me. I'm
Right.
able to identify it, and it carried on a little bit even after college, because it was like I wanted to just I don't know if it's like the thing about perfection,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Right, like just doing good work and being
Yeah.
able to, like, do I deserve to be here at Essence? Do I deserve this job? And you're just striving because you're taught to, it's condensed into go to school, get a good
Great.
job, graduate,
Yep.
right? And now get this job and stay in this job or get promoted. And so there were certain pressures for me around that. And so I would say that was like the beginning of me and my mental health journey.
Yeah. There's something that really speaks to when you don't know what it is you're dealing with and don't have a name or a label to it. Like it just
Absolutely.
kind of continues and you're really at its mercy. You may recognize
Hmm.
signs like, oh shoot, it's about to go down again. I'm about to really have this panic attack. But I would say I've seen when it comes to perfectionism, it's almost always accompanied with overcompensating in the area of working.
Yes.
No sense of real balance. And so even when you think about excellence, right, and wanting to do well and be diligent, like we tend to take that to the 10th degree.
Yes.
So you wind up, I found myself personally going between passion and burnout, perfection and burnout over and over again,
Mhm.
to the point where I just felt like this was normal
Yeah.
until 2018 when that real big one hit me and really put me down. There was no like cycling back up to, finding a temporary peace, now back into perfectionism again. It was the crash, and I was there for about 4 years.
Mm.
I did not want to travel anywhere. I barely wanted to leave my house. Even when I met you at the live experience down in Atlanta,
Mhm.
my first
Mhm.
time flying like before COVID. So
Wow.
that really had pushed me. It was such a breakthrough just being there, number one, and then realizing where I was. So when we were all on the panel together and I started crying, I was just thinking about where I was with the tubes connected to my neck because they couldn't find a
Right.
vein in my arm to put the IV in, and just me thinking like, this is it. I'm done. I'm not leaving this place. When I went,
Mhm.
I was like, I'm not leaving here. This is the end. I started
Right.
thinking about life insurance, make sure my wife had the papers, and tell her, look, you can remarry if you want to, because, man, did I do enough for my kids? I didn't get to tell them I love. All these things are going through my head. I'm like, I'm done, right?
Like you can get somebody else if you want to. Just
I'm
wait
okay.
6 months.
I want to take a little grievous time, right? But that was kind of my breaking point of saying, all right, this is more than just being nervous or anxious. You need some actual help. So
Mm-hmm.
you share about maybe what led you to the point, or even if you had struggles with the concept of going to therapy, like I know I certainly did because of the labels attached to it. But share, I guess, what was a breaking point that said, you know what, not just going to the hospital, but I need to get some professional help where I'm consistently being walked through the mental challenges that I have.
Honestly, I did not get into therapy until I was in couples therapy.
Okay.
So it was this need for my husband and I, we've been married for 28 years. And so at that time, I think we were married for maybe like 22
Mhm.
when we got into therapy. Now, this was probably our third, well, I should say we were 22 years in when we got into our third round of therapy. So we had been in therapy like the 7 years in, and then another time, and then the third time was in 22 years. Because, like, listen, if you're going to partner up with somebody, all y'all stuff is going to come up,
Yes.
right? All the things that you're going to have to deal with. And so it wasn't until
Mhm.
that third time that I was like, I feel like I need to talk to somebody on my own. Right. I had things that I wanted to work through in terms of just, I think it was more so about the shoulds, like feeling like I should do this, or feeling like I'm going to let someone down if I don't do this. And I didn't, and I feel like that was a little bit some of the perfectionism coming back. And I didn't want it to overtake me because I did feel it coming.
Yeah.
And I think that when I deal with the perfectionism, I tend to shut down because then nothing's going to get done. That's
Yep.
how my body responds. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, you're not going to be doing anything. So
Right.
you might have all these things to do and your body is like, collapse. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh. Yeah, that sounds so
therapy,
familiar.
therapy gave me the tools to deal with the feelings that I had that I didn't understand. And even
Mm.
just, right. The thing I think about therapy that for me is the questions that are
Yes.
asked, right? The things that you never, it may be in the back of your head, maybe in the back of your mind, but when a therapist asks you a question, you're now forced to think.
Yeah.
You're like, where did all this come from? Right. And the person is not giving you the answer. You have to, although they're connecting the dots based on the stories that you're telling them, but
Right.
you now have the charge to figure out your own stuff and come and have revelations about why you think you're having these panic attacks, or why you think you're dealing with anxiety, or in my case, why do you think you need to put so much on your plate to feel like you're busy and you're worthy. And then when it starts to pile up and you get so tense, you just shut down. You're like, nope, nothing's getting done. Right. So that's where I was. And that's really when I started to have therapy for myself. So outside, we were in couples therapy, but then I did rounds of therapy for 3 years, just with my therapist, just one on one.
Yeah.
And then probably maybe I took a break and then came back around to have therapy again.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's
Right. Cause
that's
it's
true.
the thing is that it's like if you have a car and your car has to get tuned up, you got to get registration, you got to get inspection. So all these things
Regular.
that you have to do right regularly to
Yes.
keep your car on the road. What makes you think you don't have to do that for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
To keep yourself
Yes.
right, running for your family and dealing with expectations from family or friends or job. It's like you have to do that. It's necessary maintenance.
Yeah. I think I love what you said where you had certain questions being asked. And, you know, even though I'm an introvert and I would consider myself like what they call an HSP, highly sensitive person,
Mm-mm.
we can be very manipulative as well, even though we're most considerate
Mm-mm.
of other people. If you ask me something, I may look at the situation and think, I'm going to give the answer I know you're expecting me to say. And a good therapist is going to see right through that and said,
yes,
sounds good. So I'm going to ask it again in another way so that, we can really get past the surface or past how you think you were supposed to respond. Because a lot of times we're programmed to respond a certain way because that's what kept us safe or feeling safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Or knowing that if this is the answer someone's expecting, you
Right.
give them the answer that they want and they leave you alone.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
When you're in therapy, nope. A
No.
good who's experienced and can see past that. And I had the most gentle therapist, but some of the questions that she would ask sometimes, I mean, just, I don't know, I
Yes.
mean like a little sniffle. I got hit with some bombs. I mean, they were wrapped in a nice, tissue box, but when I looked in it,
Yes.
I said, oh,
Absolutely. I agree.
right. Like your mind and body have been holding. And that's the other aspect is people don't realize the things that you think are just in the mind, you're also holding somewhere in your body. When I was in the hospital and they ran all these tests, couldn't come back, couldn't find anything, could not find a trace of anything that indicated anything at all. Right. Blood work is fine. All the panels, all the electrolytes, all the different tests, going to specialists, wearing a heart monitor, all those things. Listen, we did not find anything abnormal that would suggest you need XYZ treatment. And really, it's just that dysregulated nervous system holding on to whatever it is that you have not let go of. And this is why I advocate so hard for therapy, because this isn't something you can go to your homeboy, your homegirl about and get free from. And as much as I love church and the Lord, if your pastor is not licensed or your friends in the church aren't licensed to, deal with those types of questions and lead you through a professionally guided journey of healing and recovery and perspective change, then you can get things to the surface. You may get a temporary relief, but you're still going to go back to the old patterns.
Of course, because those people don't have any tools for you. I literally had a girlfriend say to me we trade voice notes. She was like, I am not skilled to handle this question that you have about yourself.
Right.
And she was basically saying, get your ass in therapy. Like, cut it out. Right? Like the friendship, like you can have expectations of your friends to give you feedback and nourishment and nurturing, but there comes a point where they can only go but so far.
Yep.
If, like you said, if they're not licensed and don't have, you know what I mean? If they haven't not done the work, they don't have the credentials. So I took the advice and I got my ass in therapy.
And that's the thing. Like sometimes our loved ones can be biased in the things that they tell us or could even sugarcoat some stuff where, your therapist doesn't have the same emotional attachment. So they can tell you something straight. And it's not, some things don't need to be gently said. I don't mean across the board that you should say something mean and stern to get your point across, but every now and then there's stubborn areas that we have in our life that, no, you need to look at this right here.
Yes.
You stop blaming everybody else. Yeah, they did whatever. And this is one of the concepts that used to drive me crazy, right?
What's
and that is, it's not your fault, but it's your Ooh, like no, if this person, and typically a caregiver, father, mother, or friend or past relationship that did not go well, that broke you, you feel like they owe you something. More than just apology. Like you caused like havoc and heartache in my life, But it's like if you get in a car accident, you're going to exchange insurance information, but you still have to take the car to the body shop. You have to go and pick up the motor vehicle. You have to go and make sure all your paperwork is aligned so that the proper money gets exchanged. Even though you're not the one paying for it, you're the one responsible. And it took me a while to embrace that concept. I hated it because I'm like, no, these other people need to get here and help out what they messed up.
No, it's hard.
Right. And the truth is, sometimes these people aren't even alive anymore, or they're somewhere living their life not thinking about you. You moved on. And so you have to do the same.
It forces you to take responsibility, right? Because we can get really comfortable blaming mommy and daddy and uncle and auntie and grandma.
Mhm.
Okay, that may be true. But like you said, taking responsibility for is now it's your responsibility. Okay,
Yes.
this terrible thing happens. And now what are you doing for yourself? Because otherwise we just end up repeating the pattern, or we're spiraling in the same way, and we haven't taken the time to be like, I don't want to do that anymore. And I think that's
Yeah.
what therapy has done for me. It's like, do you want to be different? Do you want to be better? And
Yeah.
my answer has been, it's a painful yes.
Yeah.
Right? It's not easy to get there, but it's always yes.
Yeah. So what one of the first and foremost important things I talk about in my book, here go my plug here, leaving Jupiter.
Yes, leaving Jupiter, as you
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the importance of awareness. And so there were many times in therapy where my therapist would say, do you hear how you're talking about yourself right now? That gave me the opportunity
So
to pause
good.
and just kind of hear what I said. And I'm like, dang, that's pretty harsh, you know? And what the one of first awarenesses that I learned was I had no self-compassion. I knew how to give it away. I knew how to overextend myself
Ooh,
hard. I'm talking like just give you my all. But when it came to myself, man, yeah, back burner, let me take care
dang.
of somebody else first. And then, you know, now I'm burnt out and then there's nothing left for me. So, well, I'll just go back in the cave for a little while so I can come back out and continue externalizing my worth based on what I could do for others and what I could achieve. That was another sense of awareness. But how has awareness helped you in your mental health journey?
Oh, I think awareness is huge because I don't, without it, I don't think I would have been able to, I'm not going to say heal because I think we're always in a state of healing, depending on what we're doing. But even just to start that process of healing, like my husband and I, we have very different ideas about the concept of my cup runneth over, right? Like for me, everything on the outside of that cup, that overflow,
Yeah.
that's for you. Everything in the cup is for me and I need it. And my husband thinks that's really selfish. He thinks that it's like, oh, if you got, so I would say to him, like, so if you have just an ounce in that cup,
Yeah.
you think that's supposed to be for somebody else? And he would say, yes. And for me, it's like, I don't think, and we have this constant battle of, is it selfish or is it self-preservation? And for me, it's self-preservation, because if I don't have anything in my cup, then how do you expect me to fill anyone else up? And that's part of my self-awareness. Like
Yes.
I think I'm very self-aware, and I also think I'm very critical. You talked about not having compassion for yourself.
Yep.
Like I give so much other people grace
Yep.
and don't have that same level of grace for myself. And so
Right.
it's been, again, a journey to now say, oh, I'm going to, it was actually a girlfriend that said, do you hear the way that you talk about yes? Like,
Mm.
do you hear that you give yourself more grace than anybody else? Like, and that really stopped me. And I had to start looking at that. So that's part of my awareness part, is like, okay, talk nicely to T. Like, I'm just like, if I make a mistake, I'm like, oh, I messed up. I can't believe, like, but it's like, give yourself some grace.
Yes. Yes. So along those lines, one of the things that helped me to do that and capture that self-love is journaling,
Mm,
right? Because on this healing journey, you're going to have like ups and downs. Like if anybody tells you that is instant or that is linear, get away from that
no.
person. Either they don't know what they're talking about or they try to sell you something. That's not going it just doesn't work that way. But one of the things I learned from journaling was being able to capture the wins. Because I
Mm,
one time I went to see my therapist and I had a bad week. It was just bad. Like I had different symptoms that had popped back up, and I felt like I'd taken 3 steps back from going 5 forward. And she said, "Well, go back a few months in your journal and see where you used to be.
mm,
You'll see it's not all that bad. It's not as bad as you think it is. And no, you're just because you had a bad week doesn't mean you're starting over from scratch." And as I'm
right.
back in the journal, I'm reading, I'm like, dang, I am so much further along. And so this kind of setback was really just more of a setup to say, okay, go back to the tools that you've been using. Look what has been successful. Look what may have to change, because just like relationships, just like yourself as a person, the healing journey is an evolution. So what worked for me
Absolutely.
at the beginning didn't necessarily work in like the midway or towards the end. It's something as simple as like breathing techniques. That 4-7-8, I could not do it. I always felt like I was like breathing helium or something. I feel
Mhm.
like my head, like, oh God, but now I can do it with ease. But back then my body was not ready for it. So could you share about some of the tools that have helped you along your mental health journey, whether it be something to help you to, manage or cope or really just process anxiety or any other mental health struggle?
Well, it was three things I would say. Definitely journaling, because I had always been big on journaling, but I wasn't necessarily big on using it as a reflective tool, like you said,
Yeah.
to be able to look back over the course of a week,
Uh-huh.
right? Or to have someone say to me, well, I want you to document this for 7 days, right? See what things may have been a trigger for you. How
Right.
did you get, and just to answer those questions in the journal, what was the trigger? How did you get through it? How long did it last? What did you feel the next day in your body? What was, because I think we have to be
Mm.
conscious of what's happening to our body as well, right?
Yes.
Whether it's like the tension in your shoulders or your back. And for me, it's a whole body experience that I was going through, where it was just like my body just felt like I was in a constant state of like I'm always going to fight. And so it
Oh,
was important for me to be able to document that, and then release some of it. One of the other things, definitely some breathing exercises, but the other thing was to walk. So walking, I live
yes.
in New York, I live in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes we can see some real interesting characters when we're
Yes.
outside walking. And so at first I wasn't necessarily thrilled about the idea of walking, but I'm not a gym person either. And
Yeah.
then I fell in love with walking. I
Okay.
fell in love with the idea of it's just alone time for me. And it's doing something good for my body. So some of that tension that I was feeling when I would walk, it would now be released. And then
Mhm.
I'm also alone with my thoughts to be able to process, because I feel like in this day and age, we wake up and the first thing we're doing is we're on the
Oh,
phone. So we're on social media, we're answering emails, and your day can spiral, and you haven't taken a minute to check in with yourself. And so that was definitely huge for me too, being able to
yeah.
walk.
Yeah. I think when we don't do that, we sort of keep hitting that override button and miss the signs. You know, it's always kind of in hindsight. Like when I had my crash, I was like, okay, maybe if I look at what got me here, I can get myself out of it, which
Hmm.
wasn't the case at all, because
Right.
like I said, for about 3 to 4 years, I had heavy symptoms such as tight chest. I had tightness in my sinuses, which I later come to learn was something called rhinitis.
Mm.
Palpitations, of course. Felt like I couldn't catch my breath. What else? Feeling like I wasn't real. I feel like I was in a dream. The depersonalization, derealization stuff was another one. I think the tachycardia and the heart skips, the palpitations, were the things that bothered me the most, because I'm like, uh, that was kind of the leading thing that led me to go to the hospital back in 2018, was I
Right.
was having a heart attack, right? But all that being said, like, what were some symptoms that you maybe felt but sort of ignored, and then it progressively got worse, and then eventually turned into like a periodic panic attack?
I think it was a level of not knowing what to do with how I was feeling. So when
Mm.
it started in college, and I prided myself on being very organized, I was a very organized student, right? Like books, stuff is everything had its place.
Like,
And if I'm going to study, I didn't really love study groups. I did them because I
oh,
had to, but I didn't love study groups
wow.
because I felt like I needed to be able to do my own thing. So a lot of times I would lock myself away on campus and people would be looking for me, but this was pre-cell phone, so they couldn't find me. They
Yeah.
wouldn't know where I was, right? Couldn't
You
track
couldn't
me
tell
down.
your location, right?
Didn't have a location setting, right? So, but the thing was that when I would start to get really nervous. And so
Right.
now I'm scared and I'm by myself because I've locked myself away. I don't have
Mhm.
anybody to help me when I feel this panic attack coming on. And luckily that time that I did have the friend who saw me, because I collapsed. I
Oh,
collapsed on campus, right? It was so bad because I didn't know what to do with the way that my body was feeling. And it's one of those things where it felt like an out of body experience where you're in a
yes.
movie and you could see it happening, but you have no control.
And
And I just felt my body go down. And luckily the friend was there and she was like, is everything okay? And I just was
yeah,
like, I don't know. And I remember I was just crying. And that was for me a big thing. Like, okay, something I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what to do.
right. Oh goodness. Yeah, that what you just said is what inspired me to just get into the advocacy work in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I was sent home from the hospital the same way I came in. And the only thing they told me,
Mm,
follow with your primary care physician. I'm like, I may not be able to see them for another month, but these
right.
symptoms are like just kicking my butt right now. And listen, I'm still a full-time employee, still a husband, I'm still a father. Like I still got bills to pay. None of that stuff stops because you have anxiety or you have mental health challenges.
Right.
Oh, you know what? Go ahead and skip. Go ahead and skip rent this month, man. You you good. We'll
Nobody says that.
hook you
T-Mobile
up.
is not like, we got you, D. No, none of that. You still got to do the
Right.
thing.
Right. So, I mean, I went a long time wondering like how am I going to get out of this and what strategies, what tools? Like I tried a bunch of stuff, but I was not equipped at the time because my old mode of operation was just to brute force my way through things.
Mm,
And it worked for everything else. It didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter how bad I started off doing something. Like my just willpower was enough to overcome, or I'd be so persistent with trying to learn something or get something from somebody. If it was a professor, I'm gonna be in your face every day. I don't care. Like if I don't have to be the smartest in the class, I just have to be the most persistent, you know,
right.
get the answers, and nobody's going to practice as hard as me. I mean, when I watched, the, was it the last dance with Michael Jordan? He talked about how he practiced and stuff. And, people were just like, yeah, this dude was insane. And I think Kobe Bryant and some of the other, elite athletes like Floyd Mayweather, same thing. Like their practice regimen was just insane. Like that was kind of how I treated everything in life. If it's hard, then I'm going to come at you harder. I'm going to outwork you and find a way to just make you bend to my willpower, and I'll overcome
Mm-hmm.
means I get burned out in the process. I don't care. I'll just take some time to recover like after the fact, but understanding that tool was no longer viable or sustainable, because there's still moments where you have to pull out being putting out emergencies or putting out a fire or having to burn the midnight oil to get something done.
Mm-hmm.
Those are momentary, right? So what, I guess, types of habits or mindsets did you feel like you had to break or adjust because it was actually contributing to the problem?
I had to get my mind wrapped around that I didn't have to be perfect,
Mm,
right? That it was okay if I made mistakes and not to define myself by my mistake. Like that's the biggest thing,
right.
right? Because when you're not kind to yourself or you don't have compassion for yourself, you can think, oh, well, I'm my worst mistake. And it's like, that was the biggest thing for me, not to be defined by my worst mistake, not to be defined by, oh, you have to be perfect. And I think some of the perfectionism too came from childhood, from religion, right?
Mm, oh,
Because you have that put on you. So there's these layers and layers
yeah.
and layers that when you become an adult, it's like it's not that
Still
these
there.
things, right, they didn't come from out of nowhere. It's just been compounded. And now now whatever something is happening in your life is a trigger, and it makes you, now you have to deal with it. And that's what happened for me.
Yeah, it's church is a whole nother arena. Religion is a whole
Yeah.
nother arena when it comes down to stigmas, right? Even
Mm.
if you have to take medicine or you have to go to a therapist, I've heard it myself. I've seen it a lot on social media. People make their own videos and they're saying stuff like, you just need more faith. You just need to pray harder. And again, I'm not saying don't do those things, but it's just like if you broke your leg, are you going to just pray harder, or are you going to take yourself to the hospital and get a cast put on so that
Thank
God's
you.
natural process of healing can take place? And listen, you may have to be immobilized for a little while till that healing takes place, but at least you went to the right people. So why is the mind, or the mind that needs help, any different?
It's not. That's
Yeah,
the big challenge, to get, whether it's folks in your religion or in your family, to understand that the mind is no different from the rest of your body. Because, like you said, if you broke your arm, you're going to be like, oh, Lord, yes, I hope it's not broken. But you're going to take yourself over to the county general or Methodist hospital or
get you
Presbyterian,
the
and you're
X-ray,
going to get yourself x-ray to make sure your arm is not broken.
right?
It's the same thing with the mind. Like we have negative thoughts that left, that they're not dealt with, that
Yeah.
they can really be dangerous to our health.
Yeah. So one of the things that we utilized in therapy was cognitive behavioral therapy. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the major components of that is reframing. I wanted to get into the whole aspect of how reframing thoughts has kind of helped you, because you don't necessarily want to get rid of thoughts. You want to reframe them, because to me, I feel like every emotion or thought is actually a messenger pointing towards something else.
Mm,
And so once you
that's
reframe,
good.
look at it from a different angle and say, okay, it's just like if you have a fever, the fever in and of itself is just a symptom pointing to something else. Maybe you're dehydrated. Maybe you have a viral infection. Maybe you're not
Right.
getting sleep. Maybe your body is adjusting to the sun outside, right? But
Yeah.
if you just constantly react the same way because it's the same like message and don't look behind it, you find yourself stuck in a pattern. So yeah, I said all that to say, to get around to the importance of reframing and how has that reframing worked in your life, and was cognitive behavioral therapy something that you used and continue to use?
Well, I don't think that I specifically use it, although my therapist, she probably could have snuck it in there, right? But
Yeah,
I remember, she would not let me just go with an answer, like you said, that may have just been like the answer that shuts people up.
yeah.
She would say stuff like, and then what? And what does that mean? Right?
Mm.
Or how does that make you
No.
feel? Right. Or is that in fact true? So it was like, it was the surface answer was never the answer that I would give, because
Yeah,
I'm like, this is what I think she's looking for. And we even do that in our own therapy sessions, right? Like that's the
yeah,
hope. You have this therapist, but maybe you're still developing a relationship, or you're reluctant to therapy. So you kind of put up a guard. And so for me, it was like, I almost, not that I wanted to make her work for it, but again, it was like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I wanted to present in a certain way. And
yeah.
so I think she saw past a lot of that
Hmm.
and drilled deeper, where I've had other therapists who didn't necessarily see past that and would kind of would be like, oh, she's okay, she's doing the work. But the
Yeah.
questions of, and then what, and how did that make you feel? Or just one time she drew this was in couples therapy. So my husband and I, we were working on communication, and she drew this. She was like, I want you to fill in this family tree. And so
Mm.
we had to fill in the family tree, all the couples and the kids. And then we had to talk through, how did you deal with, how did you deal with conflict? How do people deal with communication? And then it tied into our own communication, because where do we learn how to communicate from? From our families, right? Like
Yes.
we learn fight, flight. We learned shut
Yes.
down. We learned that, oh, Black men don't talk about this. And we learned
Mm.
women are supposed to act this way. And so having that breakdown, that I would say that was probably one of the best exercises that kind of broke us open, because when we think about our grandparents, specifically our grandfathers, they didn't talk about certain things.
Oh.
And then our grandmothers didn't talk about certain things,
Yeah.
right? Whether it was sex or mental health, right? Like let's say our grandparents, our grandmothers were dealing with postpartum depression. We have language now to talk about postpartum depression, but they didn't have language then.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, why can't she get out the bed? She should be so
Yeah.
happy she just had a baby. Right? And
Oh,
so
goodness.
those exercises, asking the deep questions, and those exercises, they really did force you to be self-aware or address things that you may have just thought, I don't realize that I'm even doing that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
do you realize that you're not answering the question?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you look at the news now, you see a lot of people not answering the question, and you're like,
Yeah.
but in therapy, you can learn to not answer the question, because you don't,
Yes.
either you're not ready to deal with the answer, you're not ready to tell the truth and
Yes.
hear it come out of your mouth and have your own ears hear it and process. So yeah.
And a good therapist will be able to recognize that as well.
Absolutely.
And there are certain things I remember we were hitting on some topics and my body just started to react. And so it's funny because I remember I was sitting there and I looked at my therapist, I said, is it warm in here? She said, no.
No,
Like,
you just feeling hot. You on the hot
keep
seat,
talking.
so you're feeling hot.
Yeah, we keep talking. I was like, I think I had my hoodie on or something. I was like, can I take this off? She's like, sure. Kept talking. And I was like, getting really restless, but we're going deeper into the topic, right? I was like, do you mind if I stand up? Cause I just feel fidgety. She was like, yep, okay. Then I started pacing the room. She said, oh, I see what's happening. She was like, okay, let's stop right here. Let's pause, sit down. We're going to do a breathing exercise and help to just kind of regulate. And we're going to revisit this another time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, there is something to be said about a therapist that knows how to pace you as well.
Yes.
And this is another thing that your homegirl, your homeboy, your parents won't be able to do. Is it's funny when you mentioned the previous generation. I was watching this video where it's either a child that goes to I think their mother and say, Mom, I'm depressed, and she goes, go in there and depress them dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was we talked about. I remember when I was in 4th grade, I had a really bad head injury, and I ended up going to the hospital for a few days. They had to do all these tests or whatever, and I'm 10 years old at the time, and so you're in the child, unit of the hospital. So the room was big enough to have like a roommate. So I got all these tubes and stuff connected to me, and then across from me, I see this young kid who's just over there like he's just having a ball, and I'm like, it's like, hey, what you in for, man? Like, cause you don't look sick. I look over, he's playing games, eating pancakes, and doing all types of stuff. And I think I'd asked one of the nurses or somebody. I said, "What's going on with him?" And they're like, "He's depressed." And that was like my earliest memory of hearing something like. I was like, "Man, you go to the hospital because you're sad?"
Right.
And back then, this was what 1988.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We just didn't have those types of conversations.
Not at all.
We had those conversations with our friends. If you considered going to therapy, it was like an extreme case where you like had not just had challenges, like you had flipped and lost your mind.
Right. I was going to say therapy was equated with you being crazy.
Yes. Crazy,
right?
Lazy, or weak, or, whatever other stigma you want to attach to it. And I think that carried into resistance for myself, because I mentioned this in some previous episodes. Like back in 2017, my wife and I had lost a baby around like 20 weeks. Right?
Sorry.
They give you a lot of resources, books and pamphlets and this group and that advocacy. And, so, it's like you don't have options. But I was like, man, I don't know about any of this stuff. And we're in uncharted territory where I've never lost a child before. So I don't know what to do or if these groups will help. And then through my employee assistance programs, they had something where you can go in and select a therapist. So they made it super easy. It was like a little widget. You fill out some information and you kind of click through the next and then into a bunch of specialists. And I think I'd gotten down to 3 and I selected the one. I was just about to push the button to set up a time. And then those stigmas came and was like, crazy, lazy, weak. You know, you managed this far, don't do it. So I decided not to go. I decided wife and I didn't need to go. And I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but that's one of them.
Yeah, because
after that was where I had the big crash. So speak to, if you can, if this is something you've gone through, like any resistance where there were struggles for actually going to therapy, and then what kind of made you like break through and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this?
No, I was always open to doing it for myself because I saw the benefits that it had for going to couples therapy. Like I said, my husband and I, we've been in couples therapy at least 3 times. And so I saw the benefits that it had for us as a couple working through our challenges. And so that I said the 3rd time, but it really was the 2nd time that I ended up being in therapy with my therapist for 3 years and then another one for like a year. And so for me, I didn't have any hesitation. My thing was, I just want somebody who looks like me and is going to, right? That was my biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like, because one, I was going through the health insurance. So I was like, we're going to go ahead and use this health insurance. And I told them, I said, I need you to filter for and send me the list.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they completely understood. And luckily there were a lot of people to choose from. Right. I think that was probably the thing I was scared of. Like, because our first therapist was white. It was a white male.
Okay.
And so 2nd therapist was a Black woman. 3rd therapist was a Black male. So that was really important to me to have a Black person or a person of color.
Okay.
I didn't have any hesitations. That was just my biggest thing. I didn't want to sit across from someone who may not have had the same cultural experiences, right? I'm not saying that Black people are a monolith, because we're not.
Right.
By any stretch, but I needed to know that there was some commonality going on.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that was really important.
Yeah. You want them to be able to speak to those commonalities and those issues that may not necessarily be apparent or obvious to someone who be able to pick up certain cues right away, because they know from their own experience what that is. So
yeah.
So as we're getting close to the end here, I want to ask you to speak to the audience in particular, to those who might be struggling with the idea of going to therapy. What would you say to them in particular?
I would say that therapy is not scary, right? I think that if you have a good therapist who is asking some thoughtful questions and you're ready to get the answers, be honest with yourself, be kind with yourself and get the answers, I think you can have some important breakthroughs. And I think that one of the biggest things for me was that I didn't want to just lock in on one person. If I didn't feel like we were connecting and vibing, then that was not my therapist. That was not, I have one, like to be able to try out therapists is very important to me before I lock in and be like, this is my person, right? It's kind of like dating.
Yeah.
The first person that comes along, you're like, that's not like, I'm marrying this person, right? Oh, you're going to date this person, find out what they're like.
Right.
And after there was one therapist, I remember she called me a deviant, and I was like, we're not, you and I, not compatible. So I had to move on from there. But I think that the biggest thing is to realize that you can choose a therapist who gets you. I did have one friend who didn't really want to deal with her issues. And when the therapist would get close to the breakthrough, she would hop and be like, I don't like that person. I'm going to another person. Right. And so every time that would happen, every time, it's like, what is that saying? Don't leave before the magic happens. Before the magic would happen, she was gone. So I think for people who are considering therapy, interview some people, find out if they're going to be a good fit. And I think just be open to the idea of going deeper in terms of your feelings and even your own behaviors.
Yes.
Because sometimes you have to interrupt patterns things that you've been doing all of your life. And you're thinking like, oh, this is normal. This is me. This is how T is. But that might be that T has something that she has to work through. So T doesn't do that thing anymore.
Right. May not be healthy. Definitely. So, and this is another thing I talk about in my book is the importance of doing a consultation with your therapist, right? And usually those last about 15 minutes. And if you're a good discerning person, you can kind of tell pretty quickly if you have a vibe with that person or not. Their ability to listen, the type of feedback they may give you, even in that short amount of time. It's just like buying a car. You'll go to several different dealers.
Thank you.
Different car types before you go in there and start signing, paperwork.
Exactly.
That car may seem like, oh man, it looks good on the outside. Then you get in and start driving like, it's not the sound system ain't really bumping the way I want it to.
Exactly. The speakers is not good. No.
Right. So, that is super important. I'm glad you brought that up, especially even if you're already, have that therapist assigned and they're your official therapist. You don't have to stay with them.
No.
And matter of fact, the moment you feel like it's not working out or you want to try something else, it doesn't have to be personal. Maybe you feel like things aren't moving along the way you would like them to, or this therapist is a little too kind of superficial. You really ready to do the work and get deep down into the gristle and bone marrow, and they're not doing that. Then you can say politely and professionally, I want to explore some other options. And even when I at the end of the sessions with my second therapist, I kind of noticed that, and she did too, that we started I hit all the milestones that we had talked about in the beginning. And I was like, you know what? This is a good point where I think I want to just try life again without therapy and just kind of see where I am. Now that I have these new tools, now that we hit these milestones, now that I have a new mindset, now that I have a new ability to reframe and recognize certain things, so I'm not falling back into the old patterns. I want to see what I'm really, made of now.
Yeah.
And we agreed. We did a closeout session. I shared some things with her about, the pros and cons of our sessions together, and it was a good ending. And so if I ever needed to go back, I know that I could do that.
I think you said something really important, like you hit the milestones, right? Like that was really important for me being in therapy. Like, what is it that you want to get out? What do you want to achieve during our time together, right? And so if you're hitting those milestones, there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm ready to close out. I'm ready to move on. You can even outgrow the relationship with your therapist and be like, I think that you've taken me as far on this journey as can possibly go. And one of the things I wanted to say about our last couples therapist is that I found him from a podcast.
Wow.
Yes. So it was again, I feel like it was me manifesting it because I heard him on a podcast and I was like, I like the way that he's talking about marriage and relationships. And I was like, let me see if I can listen to a couple more interviews on different podcasts. And I really enjoyed his perspective. And the big thing was I was like, I needed somebody that my husband was going to connect with as well.
Yes.
Right?
Super important. Super important.
I was like, it don't matter if it's just me connecting. Like, he has to connect too. And so I was like, I kind of stalked him. I'm not going to lie. I looked him up in what was it, Psychology Today. I was like,
Let me read your reviews. Let me see how many stars
exactly.
you got.
Let me read the reviews. Let me see what the people are saying, and if
Yep.
people were saying good things. And I said, just see if he takes my insurance, and
Yeah.
he did, and I was like, whoa.
Let's do this.
So it was great.
That is good. That is good. Well, we are at the end of the show.
Okay.
We're just sharing so many different things. And now we get into the fun part of the show that I call the quick fire round, where I ask you some quick questions, about 10 or so, and to get your quick response, as I mentioned to you in pre-recording. If you take longer than 3 seconds, you're overthinking. Don't do it. Don't
Got
do it.
you. I'm ready.
Always
I'm ready.
fun.
I'm ready. Put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game. I'm ready.
Here we go. Number one, who's your favorite musical artist?
Jay-Z.
Girl?
Listen,
Is it real?
you can't be judging my answers now. Okay.
No, you started laughing. That's why I'm like, you trying to be funny.
No, I had the water and I didn't want the water to fall out my mouth. That's
Okay.
why.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I thought you messed with it. All right. So, all right. This is that question. Are you a stay in or go out type of person?
I'm gonna go out.
All right. TLC or SWV?
Oh, that is really unfair. I'm gonna have to go with TLC though, because when I was in college, I thought I was chilly, you know. So
you were chasing waterfalls. The favorite place you've ever visited?
Paris.
Nice. What is your favorite holiday?
I'm gonna have to go with. I have to go with Halloween.
Nice.
Just because, it's the spirit of like dressing up. I like to, be
You still do that?
be a different person. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
I'm still committed to. I want to be BAPS. I want my sister and I to do BAPS this year for Halloween. Okay. She's not coming aboard very quickly, but we'll get her to. Because I want to be Holly Berry, So,
What is your favorite Mary J song?
oh man, I'm gonna have to go back to Real Love.
Okay. Yeah. First album, right?
First album. What's the 411? I played it to death.
Oh my God. That was 92?
92. So that was my, like sophomore year of college.
Man, that album was like revolutionary because nobody sounded like
repeat.
Yes.
No. On repeat. And it felt like she was singing to us.
Right. Sweet or spicy?
Spicy.
Book or podcast?
Book.
Mm-hmm. What is the current book you're reading or the last book that you finished reading?
Oh, it's right here. It is called It's Something Stuck. You are not stuck. That's what it's called. How soul guided choices transform fear into freedom. So you are not stuck. That's it.
All right. And this one is a little deep, so this might take a little thinking.
Okay. I got 5 seconds.
I'll give you more than that. Because when I wrote it down, I was like, ooh, should I do that one? That's kind of interesting. What is the favorite thing about yourself?
Honestly, my ability to laugh at myself. Because I had to learn, like I said, to not judge myself by my mistakes. And so, quick story, maybe 3 weeks ago, I slipped and fell in the streets. And my knee was like scarred up, banged up, bloody, but I am laying on the pavement cracking up. And my mother is like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, who at this big age slips and falls in the street? It's me. So, yeah.
You weren't bad enough to where you weren't laughing, because then that's another problem.
Right. That's another problem. That's another problem. No, there was a woman. She was like, so you need help getting up? And I was like, no, I just got to laugh this off. I'm going to get up. When I got to where I was going, I got some Neosporin and alcohol and cleaned myself up. But I was literally laughing at myself. So,
yeah. Nah, I'm clumsy myself. So, I was somewhere recently and I think I was at the gym and I tripped on something and it took me a while to catch my balance. And I was sort of looking around and
You're
one guy was
like,
just like,
right, because you're like,
right.
but you're tall.
But I
You're tall, so
said,
you got further to fall. You know how short I am. It's like me in the pavement, right quick.
my goodness, that is hilarious. Taiia, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, D. I appreciate you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And I
This has
thank you
been
for
great.
everything you shared. I know the audience got a lot out of it, especially in the topics of therapy and all the different challenges that, we as humans go through and on our mental health journey. But I want to ask you one last question. What is
Sure.
next for you and where can the people find you?
Sure. Well, they can definitely find me. I'm leaning into LinkedIn. I'm over in that sandbox playing over there with the folk. So you can definitely find me on LinkedIn at Taiia Smart Young. And what's next for me? I am launching a a limited series podcast called From Expert to Author. So it's just 5 podcasts and it's really like a class because you get activities to work through and you get a worksheet that goes along with it. And if you do it, you also get a bonus session to have a call with me. So that will be launching at the top of the year.
Nice. Very nice. All
Thank
right. Well, I'll make sure I'll include all that information in the
you.
caption. This is going to be released. This will be YouTube, Spotify, all the different outlets and stuff. We'll make sure we have
Okay.
that in. People can, go and check you out.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you.
Certainly. All right, good people. We are at the end here, and you know the slogan, find your recovery path. Thank you for listening and thank you for tuning in. Until next time, take care.